Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain. I'm Rachel. I have my coffee, I have my books and my reviews, and had some rain just a little bit earlier, but I think it may have stopped because I'm starting to see sunshine. And sadly, I think that means that we are probably not going to have any more rain this evening, so I'm a bit disappointed. But I still have books to review, and right now I am going to talk about The Summer War by Naomi Novak. So, Naomi Novak is somebody who I love to gravitate towards whenever I see she has written something new. And this book was, even though short, was very well done and still gave me that same sort of fairy tale esque vibe, princess in a castle, and knights in shining armor, and people who come to save the day. So I guess that could be fairy tale like or fairy tale esque. There are no real fairies, but I will say that Celia, our main character, does have a bit of magic in her. And I do, well, I take that back because we don't fully know about the Summerlings, but I think that they appear to be Fae-like in the way they carry themselves, the fact that they're potentially immortal, and that sort of thing. So, you know what? I take it back. I do think the Summerlings are actually a Fae-like race. So let's dive in. In this poignant, heartfelt novella from New York Times bestselling author of Spinning Silver and the Scholarmance trilogy, a young witch who has inadvertently cursed her brother to live a life without love must find a way to undo her spell. Celia discovered her talent for magic on the day her beloved oldest brother Argent left home. Furious at him for abandoning her in a war-torn land, she lashed out, not realizing her childish, angry words would suddenly become imbued with the power of prophecy, dooming him to a life without love. While Argent wanders the world, forced to seek only fame and glory instead of the love and belonging he truly desires, Celia attempts to undo the curse she placed on him. Yet, even as she grows from a girl to a woman, she cannot find the solution until she learns the truth about the centuries-old war between her own people and the Summerlings, the immortal beings who hold a relentless grudge against the mortal neighbors. Now, with the aid of her unwanted middle brother, Celia may be able to both undo her eldest brother's curse and heal the land so long war torn apart by summer war. So, there we go. It is considered a fantasy novella and with witches and magic. Now, it says it's adult, but I can see where a YA reader could appreciate this. I don't think there's a real need to have to put adult on it. There is no what I would consider adult content beyond the war and conflict. There is no real romantic interest, so to speak, beyond the very, very end, which I probably won't spoil for you. But you do have a couple points in here which I still think a young adult reader could understand. So let's dive in. It is only about 144 pages in hardcover. I want to say my e-reader was even less than that, potentially around 100 or so, and it was first published September 16th of 2025. So I am going to be just a day or two behind getting this out, but I am going to try to get it out this week. I am still catching up on a few books from this week, actually. I think I've finally caught up on all my ones from last week, so I'm working on finishing my ones for this week so I can dive into the ones for next week as well. I still have quite a few to read for the rest of this month, so hopefully I will get them all taken care of. But again, Naomi Novik is someone who seems to be quite a master at her craft. Now, I'm not 100% certain if Uprooted was her first work, but I know it's one of her best known works, as well as Spinning Silver. She is very, very talented at doing dark fantasy, dark fairy tale, not only retellings but reimaginings. And I do think there is a bit of a difference between a retelling and a reimagining, because a retelling is taking a very familiar story and giving it new elements, whereas a reimagining is taking a familiar story but giving us completely new characters, almost a new situation, all of the above, and reinventing it in some new way that makes the old feel new again. You still have a level of nostalgia as well as a new, unique story to be able to enjoy. And so I think she's very good at that because, again, this book has that sense of nostalgia of being able to embrace the fairy tale genre, but in a little bit of a darker way, because everything's not happy sunshine rainbows. But also, it's not a retelling of any one particular story that I know of. So I think that's why I really like her works. And so one of the things that I really wanted to highlight was it's incredibly well done, beautifully written, and it goes way too fast. I really would have loved this to be a full novel. Now, I appreciate that not all authors want to turn everything into a full novel. So, hey, I get it. I take what I could get. And not everyone can be Brandon Sanderson, who puts out chunky 400 to 600 page novels like quarterly. But did I pick up his most recent book? Yes, I did. I have The Isle of Emberdark that I am currently audiobooking my way through. And, but back to Naomi Novak. So we start off with Celia, and she is the baby of her family. There is Argent, who is the oldest. There is Rorik, who is the middle child. And there's Celia, who is the baby. And so it seems as though they each have 3 different mothers that apparently, sadly, Rorik, the middle child, the king did not want to marry his mom, but did anyway due to a prophecy that was told that that particular child would one day help the future of the kingdom. And so he went ahead and married the mom. I guess it didn't really last. And so then he married Celia's mom. And so they have 3 different mothers. And Argent is definitely the golden boy of the family. Not only is he the next in line to be the king, he is a really wonderful hero. He goes out, he fights for justice. He's definitely the knight in shining armor that pretty much you picture in most of these tales. He does not seem to do much wrong, and that's a very good thing. But he goes out and he gains a name for himself. He does the glory and fame and all that sort of stuff. He just fights for what's right. And when he comes back, he approaches his father and says, look, there was something that happened in my childhood that I didn't fully understand, but it terrified me. And so because of that situation, I now understand that I cannot stay in this kingdom. And so he abdicates his role as the next in line, and he leaves the kingdom. He removes himself. It kind of goes no contact with his dad, but also in the same process, though he doesn't say it directly to Celia, Celia overhears it all. And she interprets it as Argent also abandoning her. And her being 11 or 12 years old at that time, she interprets it very poorly. She does not understand that this has nothing to do against her, but she sees it as him abandoning her. So as he's leaving and he pretty much was like, I would do anything for you, she doesn't believe him and she curses him to never be able to find love and to always be seeking out fame and glory, pretty much. And so sadly, on that same day, that's when she realizes, like, she gets this feeling that it was not just words that came out of her mouth, but rather a curse. She has witch-like powers that she has now cursed her brother with. it was not her intent. She, again, is very young, 11 or 12 years old. She did not mean it in that way. And so for the next several years, she tries her best, reaching out all over the kingdom, sending letters and missives, trying to find him. And she is unable to find him in order to be able to try to undo this thing she has done. And during that time, she does start to grow from this little girl into a woman. And she also learns that her father has more or less betrothed her to someone. And he does not seem like a very, I guess, amenable match. He's fine, but he's definitely like way older than her. I think he's like 29 or something of that nature, and she's like 15. So that's pretty gross. And she doesn't want to marry him, but the other kingdom is really pushing it hard, saying, hey, look, they get married now. She won't have a kid until she's at least 16 or something like that. And I'm just like, that is so gross, you guys. Like, what is going on? But this is a fairy tale world, so I'm trying to keep that in mind as I talk about it. Oh my goodness, so sorry. But and you would think me sitting here drinking coffee would help with that, but anyway. So as Celia grows older, she also finds a common ground with her brother Rorik. Now, Rorik has always kind of been pushed to the side. He's always kind of been the invisible child. He's not the smartest. He's not the handsomest. He's not the baby of the family. He's just Rorik. And with her brother being gone, her father has not yet named Rorik as his heir. He has just done nothing. And he's literally, like, I kind of envisioned him as just sitting by the fire doing nothing for the rest of, like, for years on end. And I know that sounds pretty depressing, but yeah, I figure this king is probably pretty depressed that his golden boy son has decided to, like, renounce his throne and leave. However, Rorik is really trying to prove himself. Again, he's not the smartest or like the bravest or what have you, but he's trying. He's trying really hard. So a part of me, even though I'm not a middle child, I'm the oldest, goes out to Rorik, who was never really given a chance for his family to love him. And so even his youngest sibling, Celia, has never paid him much attention because she always had eyes for her brother Argent. So now that Argent's gone, she starts bonding with Rorik, and she really does see value in him. He wanted to play the lute, I think it was, like his mom, because his mom had been, I think, a performer in a bar. And so, but the father did not want him to do that because that could be seen as like lowly or beneath him as the heir to, or, as a king's son. So he takes the lute away, but then Celia gets it back for him so he can learn to play. And ultimately, he becomes a pretty good little minstrel. And they do bond as she is growing up and through the years. So she helps him understand numbers better so he can do a little bit of accounting, but she helps him to, I guess, find the story in the numbers, so to speak, which makes it a little easier for him to understand. And ultimately, it comes down to when there is a point that she decides, look, I need to go try to find Argent. I need to break this curse. I don't want to get married to this guy. But then all of a sudden, all of it kind of snowballs. And so she's got to go to the place. They were literally going to leave like the next day almost to go to whatever, like the kingdom where they thought that Argent was. And Rorik was going to go with her. Well, off she gets swept to go get married pretty much like the next day. And there is a bit of a kerfuffle. So the guy who's supposed to marry her pretty much comes and gets her and is supposed to take her into the woods to wherever the marriage is supposed to take place. But in exchange, he actually gives her to the Summerlings. And so now she finds herself more or less betrothed to the king of the Summerlings, who really wants to enact revenge against her people for the death of one of their princesses, and I want to say it's his sister. And so that's a pretty intense story as well. Now, I'm not going to try to delve too far into that, but that's when the story gets really good, because that's when Argent comes back into the picture. And let's just say these three siblings do quite a bit of work to support each other through this event. But I don't want to dive too far into it, and I don't want to spoil anything, so I want to let you all read it. Again, it's very short. It's only about 144 pages. Honestly, very easy to read in an afternoon, but take your time if you want to. Read it at whatever pace feels right for you. But please, if this sounds like something you're interested in, I do hope you will give it a chance, because Naomi Novak is a master craftsman when it comes to just her way with words and painting a picture in your mind. And I think that's why I keep picking them up, and I will continue to keep picking them up as well. But thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I will see you all on the next page. I hope you have a great one. Bye.